to Sakshi TV's special immigration show with attorney Sharad Patel from the Patel Law Group. I hope viewers in the East Coast are cleared from the massive snowstorm we just witnessed. Please note that Sakshi TV now has 2 immigration shows every week, on Wednesday at 5:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time with attorney Prashati Reddy in English, and on Friday at 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time with attorney Banu. Please tune in to ask your questions. If you're an immigration attorney and would like to join our immigration show, please email us at usa@sakshi.com or call 866-725-7441. Before we begin the show, please note that the information on the show is not official legal advice. It is for general information purposes only. Sakshi TV nor its agents will be responsible for use of information provided. If you need specific legal advice, please contact the attorney directly. Mr. Patel, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you, Brittany, for having me.
Can you provide our viewers a little bit of information about your law offices, your areas of expertise, and just your experience when it comes to immigration law?
Sure. I've been practicing law primarily in the state of Maryland since 1997. I started off in civil and criminal litigation, primarily in Baltimore, Maryland, and the DC suburbs. I gravitated more towards immigration around 2005 and just started doing exclusively immigration. And we handled, all aspects of immigration law, from the immigration court hearings to affirmative investment visas, to family-based, to the temporary employment-based and investor visas, extraordinary ability, the entire spectrum. And we do use our experience in civil and criminal law to pretty much enhance or bolster our applications or arguments anytime we're dealing with a difficult RFE, NOID, or an appeal at BIA or AAO, and also in immigration court. So we, again, have been able to apply a lot of the state law techniques to administrative law, and even in federal court with the APA and mandamus type relief. Our locations are primarily in downtown Baltimore at the harbor, and in Montgomery County, Chevy Chase, right on the Washington, D.C. line. And we have some satellite offices in D.C. and Northern Virginia, but right now, everything's obviously being done remotely due to COVID.
Yes. And how can our viewers go about contacting you if they'd like to go forward with a private consultation?
They can find us online. They can do a Google search for the Patel Law Group in either Chevy Chase, Maryland, or Baltimore, Maryland. Our website is patelfirm.com. That's PATELFIRM.com. And if they want to reach us directly, they can call 240-235-5000.
Perfect. So I want to jump right in and just talk about some of these pressing questions. As we all know, we are in the wake of a new administration with President-elect Joe Biden. And I think most of our viewers are really eager to understand what the changes, impacts, or reversal of policies that we might see switching from the Trump to the Biden administration. And I also think it's important, if you could, to kind of clarify what's going to happen with the H1B visa program specifically.
Yeah, I think that's on everybody's mind. Right now, we anticipate a lot of changes in the first 100 days. It's almost going to be a mirror image of what the current administration did after taking office. And I think it's going to be obviously more favorable for immigrants and immigration. You're going to see some sort of enhancement of DACA. Already there was a lawsuit that compelled USCIS to start accepting DACA applications again, but USCIS on its website did put a caveat at the end that they may challenge what the federal court instructed. So you're going to have a lot of back and forth. So I don't know that everybody is going to be as positive as they were under the Obama administration with the executive actions because of what happened with federal lawsuits and the like. There is some hope that Congress could come together to try to pass legislation, and there is a bill in place, but it's approaching the 11th hour with the relief bill and the funding bill, so it may have to be taken up in the next Congress. But you can tell based on the appointees that the next administration has proposed that you are going to get back to a more favorable immigration environment, and also I think a more open environment as far as agency interaction, and even possibly or hopefully Zoom calls, because I know that the incoming acting DHS Secretary Alejandro Mayorkas did have that when he was the USCIS director or acting director under Obama and President Obama. And we're hoping that there will be more opportunity to engage directly with administration officials and agency staff, because it really got cut off this administration. It's been very difficult to get any sort of direct contact with any agencies.
Absolutely. COVID's been a challenging time, but certainly under the last administration. I want to talk to you a little bit about change over time with HB1 visas. So, some of our research says that, as of 2003, there was 195,000 H1B visas permitted. Today, it's only around 65,000, with the potential to increase to 85,000 for those with U.S. master's degrees. First, do you know why we've seen such a significant decrease since 2003? And why do you think the quota will be increased with the new administration?
Yeah, that's a good question. The H1B lottery cap, what they call it, was in the six figures in early 2000. But I think what happened was you had 9/11 happen in 2001, and there was definitely a push for more protection as far as homeland security initiatives and things of that nature. So there was definitely another battle going on at the time. And I don't know that people remember, but it was pretty contentious back then also. Not like now where, you have constant politics daily, but it was very contentious, but I think it was actually fair. They were just trying to protect US workers, but they also wanted security enhancements in place. So it was a kind of a sign of the times. And, there was the reduction in the quota, but there was an increase, like you said, in the master's cap. And then there were some other provisions where they increased fees and added fees like the American competitiveness fee, fraud fee, and they raised some other fees. So it was more that, they were trying to also look at the deficit at the time. The federal deficit was a big issue. So you really have to go back in time and in context and look at, which senators and representatives were handling those items and the legislation. And some of them are the same ones that you see now that are continuing to try to push through legislation. As far as increasing the quotas, it's possible. Again, it may depend on this runoff election, January 5th in Georgia, to see who's going to have the majority. Even though one party will have the majority, it'll be a slim majority. And, based on the politics, you may have some compromise, but we're seeing that in some bills. But I think what's overshadowing everything right now, obviously, is COVID.
Absolutely. I want to transition just a bit. What changes, if any, do you anticipate when it comes to green cards for Indian nationals?
That's another good question. There is a push to increase the quotas for Indian nationals because, as you may know, the Indian workers have to wait forever before they are able to apply for the second part of their green card application. Recently, there was some movement in green card applications in October and November of this year. So a lot of applications were submitted for people who have been waiting almost 10 years. But the flip side of that is that the agency was not equipped to handle the surge in filings. And we actually saw, and we are seeing still, delays in just receiving applications, depositing filing fee checks, and also scheduling biometrics, which has been more a factor due to COVID than it has anything else. But I think the problem is, even if quotas are lifted under the new administration, you are still going to see a backlog as far as processing due to COVID and shutdowns and short staffing and things like that. So I think everybody has to be patient and realistic that there could be positive developments forthcoming, but it could also take a little bit of time because there will be a lot of conditions in both the House and the Senate if legislation is actually passed.
Absolutely. Sounds like it's a long process that potentially is going to be longer due to this pandemic. We do have our first live caller, and they are calling from New Jersey. Okay, do we still have our live caller?
Okay. Hello?
Hi.
Hello?
Did you have a question for Attorney Patel?
Hello?
Hi, can you hear us?
I'm sorry, it's not audible. Yeah, now I'm here. Hello?
Excellent.
I'm
yes,
audible?
feel free to ask your...
Okay. Can I speak to Chirag?
Yes, this is him.
Hello? Yeah, hi,
Hi.
Chirag, good afternoon. Yeah, my name is Shruti and I'm calling from Texas. I'm actually representing the company. I'm an employer. So I had a question related to one of the petitions which we have filed recently for one of my employees. So one of my consultants, he has been working with the end client place and he's currently in his term extension. And we have filed his H1B this year. So when we upgraded the petition to the premium processing, initially USCIS accepted the premium processing and later, even after 20 to 30 days, we haven't heard anything from them. So we have called them and they told that they have cancelled the premium processing again and they are going to refund us the money. And they say that the case has been cancelled due to the administrative reasons. And the case has been denied finally. So what do you think, like, what was the main reason, like, the denial? Initially, they accepted the premium and later they have cancelled it again?
Well, did you receive a formal...
Because they were working on the case later, October 1st.
Yeah, I mean, I would advise getting in touch with either the service center director with H1B or the ombudsman. I don't know how much or how effective the ombudsman would be at this point, but the other option is also to try to approach your member of Congress or a member of the Senate. You said you're in Texas?
Sorry?
You said you were in Texas?
Yes, we are in Texas.
Okay, yeah. So I think those right now are your best options. But usually you would have a formal decision with all of the details provided, and you may have an option to file an I-290B, either a motion to reopen or reconsider or an appeal. But I think that's going to be your initial guidance. If you haven't received anything, you really need to request that again from USCIS. You will have additional time to file any 290B due to COVID flexibility, but I think you need to exercise all of those options quickly to have something filed and then to take it up with any other channels because things are very delayed right now. But I think that would be your best bet.
Okay. Here my question is, like, on what basis we can just do this argument? Because the consultant is really working at the client place and just because of the start date without receiving any RFP, we have exactly got the denial. So as they were working later to the start date, October 1st was generally, we thought that the H1B effective date and we have to mention the same thing. So do you think, like, MTR, like whatever we open motion to representation, it works? Like we can explain all this while responding to the case?
Well, I think the best thing to do, if you want to reach out to me afterwards, it would be good for me to see exactly what you're referring to and then be able to provide any specific guidance.
Okay. Then I can I'll contact you directly.
Okay.
Excellent. And as we're waiting for our next caller, I did have a quick question, and I wanted to see for our viewers, would you be able to explain in detail what the S386-1044 bill is and how it evolved? You know, does it help Indian nationals? There's just been a lot of chaos with approval in the House versus approval in the Senate. And I think our viewers would really like to get some information about it.
Yeah, that bill, it is supposed to help Indian nationals in that the quotas for the green cards would be increased. Now, the House bill was introduced by Representative Zoe Lofgren, and it's providing a lot of conditions where they're phasing in, the increased quotas and increasing from 7% to even 15% at different points, but allowing other countries first dibs because they're not going to have as many people applying. Now, it's something that originated, in California, in Silicon Valley, because the big tech employers really want to have these workers stay here permanently or give them some assurance that they're going to be able to have stability because they're constantly having to, file for more tech workers. I think the flip side of it is that Congress wants Silicon Valley and other employers to hire more American workers. So that bill actually, the House version passed, I think, last summer, but the Senate version just passed, but there's a lot of reconciliation that needs to be done. The Senate version has a more strict provisions as far as DOL, Department of Labor compliance, a lot of issues, new things as far as LCAs and even possibly an LCA fee, LCA compliance, penalties for non-compliance and fraud, and different minimum standards to be able to employ H1B employees. But there's also a fast track for those who have an I-140 approved and H1B, who are on H1B, and they've had an I-140 approved for 2 years. They can actually apply for green cards without having to wait, so that their dependents can get EADs. So there are positives and negatives for both the House and Senate versions of this bill. The problem is that that Congress is scheduled to go out of session tomorrow. And that's why right now there's a rush to file this COVID relief bill and also possibly extending the funding deadline for the government. But there's a possibility that that this could get into one of those bills as an omnibus bill, but there still needs to be reconciliation. So realistically, it would have to be reintroduced next Congress. And, we'd have to see what the makeup of Congress is, and then what, it may also depend on what happens with COVID and unemployment and these relief bills. So everything is kind of intertwined right now. So the intentions were good, but I feel like it might have been introduced when, things were going very well and there was no COVID or nothing. So right now, the fact that the Senate did come back and provide some different provisions is positive. So you seem to have some consensus here, but again, it could be symbolic because the session is ending and you're going to have a new Congress and a new president. So, it's something that you have to remain to see what will happen. So I know everybody's optimistic, but again, patience is really the key. And just holding your breath. A lot of these things sound good, but there's also a lot of pushback we've seen from people you think would be in favor of the bill, but what they're indicating is that it's more of a corporate immigration bill versus a bill for DACA or other types of immigration. So you definitely have different, even different parts of the Democratic Party wanting their own provisions in there. So there's going to be a lot that's going to happen. Possibly the first 2 quarters of next year, the first half of next year, maybe the second half. Again, will depend on the vaccine, the markets, employment. There's so much that is uncertain, at least for the next 2 quarters.
Absolutely. I have another question for you regarding H1B visa, but before we go there, we do have another live caller.
Yeah, hi. May I speak to Patel, sir?
Yes, this is Patel.
Yeah, hello, sir. I have a quick question. Recently, I got the H1. It was picked on September. So when, how long it will take time to get that either approval or either RFE or whatever, like?
Yeah, well, did you apply regular processing or via premium processing?
Regular.
Yeah, right now, I think it could take a while. I mean, you may have to, the usual amount of time, normal time processing is 4 to 6 months. I mean, it may be closer to that 6-month mark. You may want to consider upgrading to premium if you can, because that obviously will expedite an RFE and any decision. But I think it's going to take a while, unfortunately, if you were selected in September.
Okay, so can I change it into premium process?
Yeah, you can upgrade to premium. You can file Form I-907. The premium fee has increased, though, from $1,440 to $2,500 in October. So just keep that in mind. But you can go to the USCIS website, and they will have all of that broken down for you and where to send that and how to complete it. Your employer would complete that.
Okay, and if it is in regular process, how long it will take time?
Like I said, it could take, 6 months. Right now, it's very difficult to provide any guidance due to, COVID and processing delays and backlogs. So, that's all we can say right now. I feel like there would be more guidance when the new administration is in office, but, until this administration is out of office, it's anyone's guess is good, but I think that's a realistic estimate.
If I go to premium, how long it take?
Well, they have to get back to you within 15 business days. So they will either provide an RFE or a decision. So, that's the benefit of premium. And you will have access to premium through a different phone number as well as email. And you should be able to fax your response in, but definitely confirm which service center it will be processed at and what their rules are for faxing, because they all have different rules. You would think it would be uniform, but it's not.
Thank you. May I get your detail, like your email ID or contact details?
Yeah, it's my first name, Chirag, CHIRAG, at Patel, CHIRAG.
HG.
No, A as an apple, G.
Okay.
At patelfirm.com. So PATEL and FIRM, like lawfirm.com. Okay?
Right. Thank you, sir.
Okay, sure.
Excellent. So just kind of going back quickly to, the HB1 visa and, we are seeing that many jobs are now being shipped overseas to countries like India. So what does this mean for the future of the IT job market for H1B visa holders?
That's a great question. I think right now, the fact that tech is booming in the US, I feel that the US is still the main draw for anyone who wants to work in tech. I know there have been obstacles created, but practicing day to day, we have not seen as many obstacles as you would think. I know statistically speaking, they're saying that, RFEs are up, rejections are up, but everything is still based in law and rulemaking. And if you are able to justify each employee and comply with all of the requirements, the H1B is still attainable here. It takes time, but they do have premium processing still. And you would have to, renew it and then file for the green card. And there is definitely uncertainty there, but I feel like people still want to try to come here and see if they are able to navigate and, get that stability because the opportunity is still great as far as the big tech companies and the ecosystem in the US.
Yeah. So in terms of, people wanting to come here, do you think America will, be a favorite destination, continue to be a favorite destination for F1 students, just given the changes that we discussed earlier, like the H1B lottery, is the American dream still possible here?
I think it is, and I think it's going to depend on how Congress reacts, how the government adapts, and how educational institutions are able to weather, the COVID storm. So a lot remains to be seen. I think, the online education or remote learning could be an issue because, or due to the cost of a U.S. education, and especially post-secondary education. So I know other countries are stepping in to try to attract talent. Australia, Canada, European countries, everybody, wants to try to attract that talent to, help their domestic economies. But I think people who are looking to come to the US on F1 and stay and try to get work authorization and a green card are going to, do whatever they can to stay and try to do that versus exercising the other options, because the other options are a little less, problematic and they're faster. But right now, it remains to be seen what each country's reaction will be or response will be, based on the economic situations and how they contain COVID, unemployment, their economies, GDP, things like that. So a lot remains to be seen based on the data.
Absolutely. You mentioned earlier Canada, and that brings me to my next question in terms of kind of competition for this talent. What are your thoughts on the merit-based system that we do see other countries employing?
I think the merit-based system is a natural progression, based on some of the issues with the current system, because there really is no rhyme or reason. I mean, you look at it's a lottery. Anything goes, and I mean, not anything, but you don't have any sort of hierarchy as to, okay, here's the priorities. And I mean, that then becomes something more like government planning that I think they used to do in the old Soviet Union. So you don't really want the government interfering too much, but I think the government needs to have more flexibility and be able to adapt to changing social and economic conditions more rapidly. So I don't know how, again, 2021 is going to be a mystery just like 2020 was. And we will see if Congress will focus and try to, come up with actual legislation and be boring like they used to be.
Right. One other question for you. So what would you say is your golden message when it comes to immigration that our viewers should know? And I heard you briefly mention patience, that's key here.
Yes. Yes, I think right now patience is the biggest thing, because I think everybody thinks they can contact the agencies or, try to contact the courts or whatever their cases are pending. But you got to look at the amount of time that we've been under COVID restrictions. So, from March, it's almost the entire year, and it could go into next year. So that amount of time you have to add to anything you've filed. I mean, like I said, biometrics are taking time, processing is taking time, and contacting the agencies, it's just not like it was before. It's not helping. Now, hopefully, the new administration comes in and really gets through a lot of the backlog, because they do have people in place that are familiar with the agencies and should be able to do that. So, with this administration, you did have a mixture of politics and COVID. With the new administration, at least, the politics will change and there will be an incentive or a desire to move things through faster. So, patience is key, I think, until maybe the middle of next year, and then we'll probably have a better idea about how things are going to function and move.
Excellent. Well, we are out of time. Thank you so much, Attorney Patel. We really appreciate all of your insight. I know our viewers got a ton of information that's going to be useful moving forward, and we hope to have you back again soon.
Thank you. You have a great rest of your day, and everybody have happy holidays. Stay safe, and thanks for having me.
Excellent. Take care.
Okay, take care.